recently I've been getting a lot of confused comments about the random and bizarre nicknames I gave some of the dinosaurs. Paris became Plankton, the Megaraptor was called Mr. Useless, I called the Cryolophosaurus Zuko, so obviously a lot of you are like, what the heck is going on? Well, to answer that question, these are a bunch of nicknames Dr. Indominus and I came up with when we reacted to the entirety of the Dinosaur King show. Our entire commentary can be found on his channel, or a playlist found on my channel, but you know what? That's a week's worth of content to watch right there, and people don't got that kind of time. So I'm just gonna compile all those nicknames into a single video and explain as many of them as I can. I'm looking at all the cards he created, so I'm gonna be going in alphabetical order here. So just to be clear, we basically gave a nickname to every single dinosaur that appeared in the anime. Not the games, because there's a lot more dinosaurs in the games, and we haven't given nicknames to all of those. This is just the anime, as well as a few extra ones because we got a little crazy at some point. Starting with the Rajasaurus, which we nicknamed Anguirus, and I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea why we called him Anguirus. I guess it was just a reference to Monster Island Buddies, because his main voice was just ARR! Oh hey, I just received a comment about this when I was, well, on the time I'm recording this, I received a comment asking, who is Anakin? And that's the nickname I gave to the Dinosaur King Megalosaurus. Why? Because his main ability is just messing with gravity, like he has the Force. So we called him Anakin, because the main villain of Star Wars.
The Force is wrong with this one. Oh my god,
Anky, the Ankylosaurus. This is an easy one. It's because the Ankylosaurus model is so thick, our mind immediately jumped to Moto. Armadas, which, I think this one's best described with a clip. I'm just gonna play the clip.
Its name's Armatis. Oh, I love that name.
Don't worry, Carl. We will save you from Among Us.
The baby Maiasaura, it had a very kind of voice, which my mind immediately jumped to the Gaming Beaver, because he makes those noises very often. If I'm remembering this correctly, Dr. Indominus is the one who named the Acrocanthosaurus Baragon, which of course is a reference to, again, Monster Island Buddies. So when we were watching this episode, I had VeggieTales on the brain. It's a long story. So when I watched this episode and I saw one of the Saurolophuses was green, my mind immediately jumped to, this is Larry the Cucumber and his one true love, Barbara Manatee, which itself is a very complicated reference you wouldn't understand if you haven't watched VeggieTales, but there's this whole silly song where Larry is basically watching a soap opera and the main character is a female manatee.
You are the what?
Saurophaganax was actually named by one of our guest speakers at the time, Sketchy, which he called it Beef. And he voices it, but at some point, his name, Indominus, just started doing this thing where every time we say the Saurophaganax's name, he just gets straight up into the microphone and yells beef as loudly as he can with an ear rape filter. There is no Biollante in Dinosaur King. The thing is, in one of the last episodes, there's this episode where the future has been taken over by plants, and in the D-Lab, there's this weird plant that is the heart of the plant, which is taking over the D-Lab, and we nicknamed that thing Biollante because we had a lot of Monster Island buddies on the mind.
Words.
Oh my gosh, who are you? What are you doing in my house? Get out!
Is that speaking?
Bao Bao is another one of the complicated ones. So, the Shantungosaurus in Dinosaur King, I watched that episode right after my mother showed me a special movie about warm hugs, and the main character was called Bao Bao. And since the Shant really didn't have any interest in fighting in that episode, I thought, oh, pacifist, it works with the name, Bao Bao, which means warm hug. It just wants a hug. Oh, we're already at Brontykins. This one, it just shifts between saying his regular name, but he has the personality of Thanos, because the Dinosaur King commentaries are very popular, and we had a lot of people watching, and everyone wanted us to name Brontykins Thanos, because I am inevitable. He is the final boss. Ace. We call him Carl. 100% a reference to the flip side.
You know, that other woman, it was tragic. She got buried by a pile of rocks and set on fire.
Chomp is just Chomp, although the personality we gave him, he has the voice of Patrick.
Why am I still here? I can't eat any of this.
The Suchomimus was named Deja Vu because... Dino, Dino, and Sue do not have a nickname because their names are perfect already. The reason I call this thing Elmo is because when I was little, I used to think that Seismosaurus was pronounced Sesame-saurus. Sesame, Sesame Street, Elmo. I had a very simple mind. Fish and Chips is just because Baryonyx is British. I gotta be honest, Sketchy named this one, so I don't really know why. I know why he's called Freddy, I know that part, but I don't know why he's called Logan. This one's obvious. This is Gygus. Futabosaurus is called Godzilla because he sounds just like him. The Mapusaurus appeared in the Chef episode, so of course we were going to nickname him Gordon Ramsay. The Pachyrhinosaurus. When we first saw it, the thing on its nose was so ugly and hideous. The first word that came to my mind was ugh. I was planning on naming him Ugh, but Dr. Indominus took it a step further and called him Grug. The Archaeopteryx, well, I know that's a Microraptor now, but that doesn't make any sense, so I just call it an Archaeopteryx. Anyway, it appeared in like for a fraction of a second in one episode, and it looked very happy to be there, so we just called it Happy. My boy Utah, because Utah Raptor's my favorite dinosaur, so of course it's my boy. Torosaurus was called Ola because Sketchy gave it a Spanish accent. Ceratosaurus was named Hornio because he has a horn. When the Tupixara first appeared on screen, Dr. Indominus' mind immediately switched on and he just started saying,
I am a Tapijara. I do Tapijara things.
Are you a Tapijara though? Because the subtitle says you're a Tupixara.
No, I am not a Tapijara. I just want to be a Tapijara. So therefore, I'm just thinking of what a Tapijara would do.
The Iguanodon name is really funny. Okay, so, Iguanodon is a British dinosaur. In Dinosaur King, it appeared in Australia. So, obviously, I had a choice between giving it a British voice or an Australian voice. So, of course, I settled for giving it an Irish accent and named it Jacksepticeye. I like being funny. Jobaria, my mind immediately jumped to Jojo. What is this thing called? Anchiceratops? It had face paint at some point, and that's why Indominus called it the Joker. Edmontonia, when we were watching this episode, I was telling a lot of stories about my pet lizard, Kevin. And then Dr. Indominus said, we will honor whatever dinosaur shows up in this episode by calling him Kevin. And this was the dinosaur that showed up. Gojirasaurus. The obvious nickname would have been Godzilla, but the thing is, we had already called the Futabosaurus Godzilla. So, Dr. Indominus had the genius idea of nicknaming this guy King Kong. Daspletosaurus was obviously named Little Daz, but we added the dancer at the end of it because he likes to dance. Lanzausaurus, I think I said that right, is nicknamed Lana in reference to the Loud House. So I never watched Beast Wars, but I'm pretty sure that Dr. Indominus was trying to give the Black T-Rex Beast Wars Megatron type of voice, and that's why we call him Megatron. But we usually just call him the Black T-Rex anyway. Doesn't really, either name works. Styracosaurus was in Hawaii, Maui, so of course, you're welcome. This one's a little more complex. Torvosaurus showed up and startled me a bit. And because spiders startle me, I decided to call this guy Spider-Man. And since he had the black patterning, I called him Miles, because Into the Spider-Verse, awesome. I'm sure I've explained the lore of Mini-Me before, the Piazza Waka 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 Source. And yes, I do know how to say its name properly, but it's more funny if I don't say it properly. But anyway, we just called him Mini-Me because he had similar colors to the Yangchuanosaurus, and since they appeared in the same episode, it just sort of stuck. I really don't have to explain why Mama Maiasaura is named that, right? Monetization, the Supersaurus. The reasoning behind this is 1, he's green, monetization, and B, because at the start of that episode we were watching, we were just saying a lot of, this episode is brought to you by. So we just started that name, just advertising, monetization, the name sort of stuck. So in case you haven't noticed, a lot of these names are just happening on the fly. Like this one, the Shunosaurus. When we watched this episode, I had finished watching all of Little Nightmares 2, and I was heartbroken by the ending, so I decided to honor Mono by nicknaming whatever dinosaur showed up as Mono, and thus the Shunnosaurus became Mono. Furthermore, additionally, the Majungasaurus showed up in the same episode, which worked out perfectly because I got to nickname that one 6. I explained Mr. Useless already in his repaint episode. Basically, his debut was very disappointing when he just showed up, walked around, got beaten up, and then disappeared, never to show up again until season 2. Furthermore, in his return episode, he said, I gave him the voice saying, Mr. Useless is no more. From now on, I shall be known as Mega Useless. Wait a second, no, that's worse. The Velociraptor's main ability is to stop the enemy from using an attack. So that's why I just called them the Nope Squad, because they literally nope whatever you're doing. Papasaurus is just called Papa. I constantly forget what species this is, but whatever it is, I gave it a gangster personality, so I want to call it Gangsta. But Indominus was against that, so he decided to call it Paradise instead. The Geosternbergia are named Peckout Eyes. If you've watched the Gaming Beaver, you know exactly what that reference is. Okay, Percy is up next, but first I gotta talk about Thomas. Amplisaurus appeared in an episode about trains. He's blue. It was just too perfect for me because I'm a huge fan of Thomas the Tank Engine. And as for this Lexovisaurus, when I found out what it was, cause Lexovisaurus is actually a species that was named in the Thomas and Friends official show.
You said the one back there was the Lexovisaurus, with the big spikes on its tail.
But since we already had a Thomas character, I decided, you know what? This is gonna be his best friend, Percy. Stegosaurus appeared in an episode where Sketchy was present, and he gave it the nickname Phil Swift and started making a bunch of references to Flex Tape. According to Indominus, he named the Diceratops Pixie because where he comes from, Pixie is what you call someone who is very happy. And Pixie's personality is that he was just very friendly, despite the fact he was trying to beat Paris up. Speaking of Paris, here she is. Okay, so this is the comment that basically inspired me to make this video. Because someone was very confused why I was calling him Plankton. Yes, Paris is a girl. But at some point, since we had already come up with a lot of SpongeBob character-esque names, and we hadn't given Paris a nickname at that point. So since she was green, I can't remember if it was Indominus or I, but one of us decided we're gonna call her Plankton from now on. But she was still a girl. In fact, in the last episode, this comes into play.
Oh, wait, there he is. Plankton, what do you got to say for yourself?
I was just getting a cough drop.
What? Plankton? What the hell? What the hell, Plankton?
What? You didn't know I was a girl this whole time?
Ah, Pratt, the guy who keeps getting denied his repaint. But not for long, because it looks like he's winning the poll against Anakin. Indominus is the one who named this guy, so I don't know what his thought process was. I assume it's because Chris Pratt, and he was in Hollywood, and Chris Pratt appears in Hollywood a lot, so just Pratt, not Chris Pratt, just Pratt. Deltadromeus is just called Prince Delta, because there was a princess in the episode, and he's a Deltadromeus. Not all these names are that creative. Oh, the raccoon. Okay, so first of all, this is not a raccoon. It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like a tanuki. It showed up for like a millisecond, but in that millisecond, New Orca, who was another one of our guests at the time, just gave it a random voice, and it stuck. That was a character, and he gave it a very funny personality. Euoplocephalus looked so much like Tank that Indominus called him Rank, as in second rate to Tank, and basically became Tank's brother. The moment the Allosaurus woke up, it chased after some pigs, and since I had green eggs and ham on the mind, I immediately started reciting the Dr. Seuss book, and except his name is Blue Eggs and Ham. Well, no, that's not his name. That's just what he eats. His name is Sam I Am. Okay, this one's gonna be complicated. When we went to the Shogun episodes, my friends just kept misreading the title as Shotgun. So we decided to name whatever new dinosaur shows up as Shotgun. And I'm pretty sure he's a Tajungasaurus. He didn't actually have a shotgun, he actually had the Quake Saber ability, but you know what, it stuck. When the Anhangura showed up, I just started singing opera, and I named it Soprano. But I didn't realize that Soprano is a female singer, so when I knew there was going to be a second one coming eventually, so now we have two Anhanguras, one named Soprano, and the other Baritone. Spiny is just Spiny, but we often call him Breakfast Boy, simply because of that really stupid reason that he lost to the Saltosaurus, because he didn't eat his breakfast. Since then, we've given him the headcanon that he is now addicted to breakfast, in fear of losing something like that again. Ultirhinus had a funny-looking nose, so we nicknamed him Squidward. If the Jobaria is Jojo, then of course the ophthalmosauruses he uses are gonna be Star Platinum. Okay, we're at the big one. Tank does not have a nickname, but she does have a very complex lore that we've created. It started out as just, well, in the show, Tank is like the weakest dinosaur without question, but Indominus and I started joking around saying, actually, she's quite smart, and I have like random pieces of evidence pointing out why she's the smartest, even though it's not true. But the joke just kept evolving from there. It got to the point where Tank is actually a secret agent working against the Alpha Gang, and that's why they keep screwing up. And it eventually devolved to the point where she's just part of this holy trinity with Tank, Dr. Z, and Rex's adoptive father. I could explain more, but that would take up most of the video's time, and I don't want to talk about... I think that's worth its own video, which I did tell myself that's something I have to do one day. Don't you worry, one day I'm gonna go through a full lore recap of the Dinosaur King commentaries and this weird, bizarre universe that Dr. Indominus and I created. Furthermore, on Tank's lore, it got to some point where Dr. Indominus decided that she was the adoptive mother of Bumpy. Honestly, not sure what his thought process was with that one. Terry got his nickname when he tried to kung fu kick the Pteranodons. Thus, he was named the Dragon Warrior. Honestly, when I really think about it, the main character dinosaurs, we only use Carl and Plankton's nicknames. Everyone else is just their normal names. But they still have their goofy personalities. Carcharodontosaurus is honestly the one that started it all. We wouldn't have come up with any of these nicknames if I didn't give this guy a nickname. Because at some point, when the Alpha Gang are trying to say his name, Xander calls it an Orthodontosaurus. And my mind immediately jumped to the flip side's Rexy, who is a dentist. So I nicknamed this Carcharodontosaurus the dentist and gave it the same voice and everything. I do not apologize. The quiet one. This thing freaked the heck out of Dr. Indominus. So we were too scared to give it a voice. Thus it became the quiet one. I tried so hard to give the Pachycephalosaurus a personality, but my mind I kept changing my mind on what to call it. And it's just like, he goes through so many phases, we might as well just call him a teenager. It made sense, too, since he was basically a rebellious teenager to Dr. Z. Tiny is a reference to, because I think I first heard of Yangchuanosaurus when I played Tiny Dino. No, that's not it. It's because he makes the same roar that was used in Tiny Dino World, and that's why I called him Tiny. The Fukuisaurus really liked collecting shiny objects, which is why we nicknamed him Tambatoa, who also loves shiny objects. Toro, okay, so what is he doing here? Well, if Bumpy is Tank's adoptive daughter, then Toro is Ace's cousin. And it gets even crazier when we reveal, again, in the last episode, following up with the Paris reveal.
I suppose this is a really bad time to tell you that I also have a boyfriend.
Who?
You know Carl's cousin Toro?
No.
No!
I damn, I refuse.
Toro, let's go. If these guys don't want to accept me for who I really am, then I guess we'll just go. Yeah, see you later, guys. Nice seeing you again, Carl.
Maximus was originally just called Maximus, and I gave it a very grand personality, but then I realized Dr. Indominus found some information that Maximus was actually a female. So my mind said, you know what? I'm switching it around. I'm gonna call her Twilight from Twilight Sparkle, My Little Pony. I had horses on the brains when I named it Maximus because Tangled had a Maximus. So I just decided, you know what? Yeah, now your name is Twilight. Although now it's possible that information is wrong. So now I have no idea if I should stick with Maximus or Twilight. And it just kind of shifted between the two personalities. Saltosaurus is called Necky Boy. It's very complicated. Well, not really. The thing is, when Indominus was younger, he thought that sauropods had long necks because they used them to swing carnivores around. And that was only because of the Saltosaurus' debut episode and what it did with Spiny. Therefore, it's called Necky Boy. Okay, I gotta go backtrack to the genie. So of course, the personality I gave Genie was Aladdin's genie, but since we had an Afrovinator, a new dinosaur, I decided to be clever and give this guy a Will Smith personality because Will Smith plays the genie in the live-action Aladdin. Okay, last up we have the Cryolophosaurus, and honestly, my thought process is actually recorded in another episode, so I'm just gonna play the clip.
Okay, so let me just give the thought process behind why I named it Zuko. So I wanted to give the Cryo, like, a special name, and I, like, thought one of a character that I really wanted to name it was, like, at first I thought maybe like Elsa or Gray or Frozone, but then I thought, nah, that's too obvious. Let's do something ironic. Let's go for a fire character name. And then I thought, well, one of my favorite characters is Natsu, but then no one else would get it because I'm probably the only one here who actually likes Fairy Tail, or at least used to like Fairy Tail. So I thought, well, let's just do Zuko. Everyone knows Zuko. Everyone knows the memes. So it's Zuko. Zuko the frosty guy.
That thought process for Zuko is perfect. It was completely different to what I was expecting, but yet I love it.
And that's it. That's all the dinosaurs from the anime with a few extras littered here and there. If you have any more questions about my weird thought process, I'm afraid I can't help you anymore.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video from beginning to end. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and join the Zainreborn community. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.